welcome into an all new episode of Pack a Day Live. Of course, I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Two absolutely tremendous guests today. First of all, you can find him at Basaraski, of course, his famous YouTube channel, Basaraski Productions. He is the one and only Alex Basara. Alex, how the heck are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Excited to talk Packers with two of the greats of the Packers sphere. So again, thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate you. And of course, the one and only Zach Jacobson as well. You can find him on his 13th Twitter handle at It's Zachary J. He is, of course, the editor-in-chief of PackerReport.com, where he does absolutely tremendous work, and I don't think he ever sleeps. Zach, how are you doing, man?
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. No, I'm fantastic. And I've been on my 13th Twitter account for 3.5 years now. So
it's strong.
Yeah. Knock on wood.
Don't jinx it. Well, no matter what, everyone always finds you, though, and deservedly so. Like I said, you guys both do a tremendous job covering the Packers. Obviously, it's been a very interesting week and just really kind of a couple weeks in Packerland. Obviously, for those listening, get your questions in. We'll get to as many questions through the course of the show as we can. Of course, any super chats will go to the top of the list. But I want to start with you guys. Zach, I'll start with you. Just your overarching feel of how this week has gone. Of course, we've had the Devondre Campbell tweet. He's not talking about anything on the internet today. Just obviously the whole Joe Barry situation. I don't know. What's the vibe, man?
I think it was you actually that touched on it a couple days ago, or it might have been somebody else, but just they said that the vibe just felt off, like just with the defense. I don't want to say with the team because I can't, off the top of my head, I can't recall any like resounding issues stemming from the offensive side of the ball. But defensively, I mean, you got the Jair Alexander thing, you have the Devondre Campbell thing, which I still personally think the Jair thing isn't anything too crazy to read into. I know a lot of people just like to talk about anything and they like to create problems that don't exist. But the vibe is just very odd, like I will admit that something feels just kind of weird. Like there's certain frustration being pent up inside of the building with the way the defense is playing. I mean, it's impossible not to feel frustrated after, Baker Mayfield, looks like 2004 Peyton Manning at Lambeau Field. It's impossible to not feel frustrated, but it's like the players want to speak up. They want to say something. They want to critique, what's going on, but it's like they can't. Obviously, they're professionals. And Matt LaFleur, we have seen it since he came aboard in 2019. Every time he's up there and he has to defend somebody, he's going to defend them. He's going to throw himself under the bus, whatever it is. But you get the feeling that as far as Joe Barry goes, their minds have already been made up. I don't feel like there's any kind of hinkling inside of the building right now that, they want to bring him back or he is going to come back because his contract does expire. And I would be just beyond shocked if he is re-signed. So, I feel like there's that looming sense of kind of inevitable change that he is going to be gone and they have to play these last 3 games knowing that, okay, we're playing, within a scheme that doesn't play us to our talents, doesn't put us in positions to be successful. And it's like, what's it for? These last 3 games, what's the point? Like they know he's going to be gone. That's what I think. I think the vibe is just completely just off.
Alex, what are you thinking, man?
Yeah, Zach said it best. The vibe is off. And, weirdly enough, there still is playoff chances. Like, if they win out, it's a massive if, right? Because it's like, 2 or 3 weeks ago, we're on top of the world. You beat the Lions, you beat the Chiefs. And it's like, okay, like, Packers maybe could win a playoff game, maybe, if they make it into the playoffs. And then these last 2 happen. You're talking like Baker Mayfield, first ever opposing quarterback with a perfect quarterback rating. Tommy DeVito. It's like, you see Tommy DeVito the game after puts up 6 points. It's like, damn, man. And Zach said it best. Like, I think he will be gone in 2024. It's just like right now, it's like, what kind of change would you make? Like, would you get rid of him and then promote Jerry Montgomery interim? Really, there's no great options right now. So I think they're just kind of letting the season play out, which does suck because it's like you have these things with Devondre Campbell, Jair Alexander, who knows if anything of that is coach related. You see what Devondre tweets and then he says he's not talking about anything about on the internet, even though he tweeted that. And then mentioning, his guys, he's with Matt LaFleur, like he's his guy. So like, was that directed towards the fans? Was that directed towards Joe Barry? It's all confusing. The vibe is off 100%. I just feel like that mentality on that defense is like completely wiped out. And a lot of these players are just going to keep getting more angry and angry. It's just frustrating right now.
The thing that's so weird to me, 2 weeks ago, they're coming off a win against the Chiefs Sunday night. you get the defense gets the big sort of, play from Keyshawn Nixon to get the interception. They held the Lions, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes pretty well in check through those 3 games. There was even talk of like, all right, maybe this defense isn't quite as bad as you were expecting it to be. And it almost feels like through self-inflicted wounds and self-inflicted drama, like all of a sudden everything's an issue 2 weeks later. And this is definitely the symptom of having and it's weird because we know the majority of the youth is on offense and we're not seeing some of the same sort of issues, but it's still a young team. It's still a team that you don't know what you're going to get from any given week, but it just feels like if there was, I don't know, maybe it just needs a leader on defense to step up a little bit more. It's something we all can tell something is just off. And I think the easy punching bag and just the easy reach for is Joe Barry. And that's a big piece of it. I don't think there's any question about that, but everything just feels a little bit off. And I think the thing, again, that's so strange. It's just 2 weeks ago was like at least trending in an okay direction, even if it didn't pass the eye test at all times. So to go from that to now this and just having this abysmal game against the Buccaneers at home, it's just so weird. And it's hard to like pinpoint exactly what the source of all of this problem is, other than, again, just going to the easy, it's Joe Barry.
Yeah.
It's bizarre because you see defenses with less talent performing like beyond expectation. And I think that's coaching. You know what I mean? And I think even if the Packers didn't have all these first round investments on defense, if they didn't have, 2 first round defenders in 2022 and Devontae White and Quay Walker, like they've put so much into this defense, like there's no excuse for them to be as poor as they are on the field to produce this poor of a product, if not for coaching. So I think in a sense, yeah, people do immediately use whoever's at the helm coaching wise, like whether for some teams, whether it's a head coach or if it's an offensive coordinator, if the offense is looking terrible, or in the Packers case, if the defense is looking bad, the immediate scapegoat is the guy in charge, the defensive coordinator. But I think in some cases it's valid in a sense because, like I said, you have all this talent and there's teams with lesser talent that are able to put their guys in proper positions to succeed because that's scheme, that's coaching. And I don't feel like the Packers exactly have that right now. And yeah, we saw the spurt for a month where, they played well against guys like Patrick Mahomes. They were playing well against Jared Goff, who has, for the first half of the year was playing really well. They limited Justin Herbert. The Chargers were falling apart, but still.
Take what you can get.
Yeah,
exactly. You don't control what comes on your schedule. You just take every win you can get. They had a little spurt, but at the same time, like the majority of Joe Barry's tenure has been questions about his scheme and why guys are playing so far off and why this is so passive, a passive scheme, a passive defense where guys are playing so far off. And it's just, I think the only direction you could point is at the defensive coordinator. But you are right. There is no, doesn't feel like there's any captain in there right now. Like there is no Zadarius Smith, who is vocal, who will speak up and who will, kind of take command of the situation. It doesn't feel like the Packers have that right now, especially with Jair Alexander out, and with Devondre Campbell obviously having some kind of, sour grapes in the locker room. But I also don't feel like they have a playmaker. Really, that's another thing.
Not in the secondary for sure.
No.
Yeah, they don't have someone that you can kind of count on to make that game-changing play. Of course, Keyshawn Nixon did it against Mahomes, but they don't have a shutdown corner right now. They don't have a safety that's going to completely isolate one side of the field and make you terrified to throw in his direction. They don't have a middle linebacker right now. Quay Walker is going to be really good, I think, but right now he's not striking fear into anybody. I don't feel like there's not that impact on defense.
Well, it's the thing. It's like we saw Matt LaFleur talk about communication. So it's like, these linebackers rarely have played together. Quay Walker, Devondre Campbell. Like we've seen Isaiah McDuffie a lot, and I personally thought he's filled in okay. But with the whole communication thing, it's like, is Matt LaFleur digging at Joe Barry? Is he digging at whoever's wearing the green dot? And, when we say, oh, well, he's having these cornerbacks play so far off, in that Giants game, supposedly the call didn't get to the opposite side of the field to Carrington Valentine or something like that of that sort. So
Yep.
it's like who does that fall on? Does that fall on Campbell relaying that? Does that fall on Barry getting that out there? I'm not really sure, but I agree. There's been no true team captain. Like even someone like last year, like Adrian Amos would have almost been that, right? So you lose guys like that. You don't have Jair playing. You have a very young team, like you said, Andy, like a young team. So it's like you have to have guys step up. And I feel like the guys that can step up haven't been able to even be on the field due to injuries. So it is definitely a problem.
Packers just still searching for that galvanizing moment that is so elusive, apparently. It's funny. I got asked today about, like, all right, like put the case together of why to fire Joe Barry. And my first response was, it'd be much harder to find a case as to why you keep Joe Barry after 3 seasons. And what I mean by that is, first of all, it's hard to point to anything that's going well at the moment. It's like, well, maybe it's the run. No, they've given up 5 200-yard rushing performances, whatever it's been. Well, maybe it's not like the pass defense is okay. Nope, it's been Baker Mayfield just threw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's not going great. They just gave up a bunch of big plays. They can't get turnovers. It's like all of that is not going well. And let's just say, play devil's advocate and say, you know what? The scheme's actually fine. It's the alignment and the miscommunications. That's worse, in my opinion. If they can't communicate in year 3 of the defense, if they can't align correctly in year 3 of the defense, and I get not everyone's been here for 3 years, but still, you've had your fingerprints on this defense now for 3 years. And if in week 15 of that season, you can't align and communicate correctly, that's more damning than if you just got out schemed in a given game. So that to me is not a good sign. If you look at the progress that young players have made, players on the offensive side of the ball have made more progress this season as 5th and 2nd round picks than we've seen from some of these 1st round picks in the last 3 years. Like, you're not seeing progress. You're not seeing anything that they can, really cling on to of like, this is what we do well. You're seeing the defense decline. You're seeing players upset. There's nothing that you can point to and say, this is it. This is the reason you got to keep that guy. There's nothing. And to me, that's the most damning thing of all for Joe Barry. Unless you guys have something that I'm missing.
Pass rush has been okay.
Yeah.
But that's about it. That's
the nicest thing you can say. Pass rush has been fine.
I guess Joe Barry, outside linebacker coach, maybe that's it. Like, maybe that's where he deserves to be. Not on this team. Hopefully not. But in general, like, maybe that's where he deserves to be. Just, okay, you're an okay outside linebacker coach, but like nothing about his track record before the Packers hired him made me go, wow, let's hire that guy. So to your same point, like, there's nothing that's going to say, wow, let's keep that guy. Before that, there was no, wow, let's hire that guy. I mean, I think his best defense was DVOA last year, 20th, and this year it's already at like 29th. So, part of the 0-16 Lions, part of some bad Washington defenses, been fired after 2 years multiple times with other defenses. It's got to end. In my opinion, it's got to end.
Preston says, sorry, go ahead, Zach.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, it takes 2 to tango as well, right? Like, the coaching can only do so much. Those guys can only do so much from the sideline and from their box upstairs. It falls on the players to execute as well. They need to be able to execute whatever their assignment is. And the thing is, with Joe Barry's defense, like, it's designed to specifically limit the big play. Packers don't want to get beat deep. That's, and you can make the argument, yeah, they've succeeded in that. But the thing is, teams will happily dink and dunk their way down the field against this defense when everything is open underneath. If you're going to run this style of defense, you need to trust your guys to be able to tackle, to get as many hats to the football as possible, and to be able to kind of limit those games. But the thing is, they haven't done that. And so many explosive plays from yards after the catch, even that, I think it was Chris Godwin. It was late in the game. He comes down. There were 2 defenders around him. Godwin catches it right at the sticks, takes it upfield to touchdown. And it's almost inexcusable. It's so bizarre that these things happen when, your defense is specifically designed. Like, these guys have one job, limit everything underneath, get hats to the football, make the tackle. And they're failing to do that. So, everything falls on Joe Barry, I feel like, but it also takes 2 to tango. Like, these guys, it's not, I don't feel like everything is marrying up. It's not a good match between what the personnel is and what Joe Barry teaches.
I think that was ex-Packer David Moore, by the way, Zach.
Yeah, look,
David Moore. There you go. Yeah. Packer legend. Yeah.
Packer legend, David Moore.
Imagine what could have been. No, I'm with you. I think it brings back to the point of, and what the point I've been making all week. Yes, the change needs to be made, but it can't be just a cut and paste. We're going to take this coordinator out. We're going to put this coordinator in, and voila, job done. Now it's a top 10 defense. Just like it hasn't worked that way for Rich Bisaccia on special teams. It's going to take time. It's going to take the right players in the right system, learning it, scheming it up, a different attitude, a different intensity. And if all those things come together, then at the end of the year, if they actually have a top 10 defense, I will finally call them a top 10 defense. Until then, a lot of work to be done up until that point. All right, Preston says on TV, all we see is Barry in the back of his play card full of plays. In the front, it's literally only a picture of Buzz Lightyear labeled cover 2 shell, play DBs off to infinity and beyond. Preston, appreciate the super chat. And yes, I think there were numerous occasions this week. I pointed out a couple of them on Twitter. I know Orlovsky had one. They've been all over the place. It's not hard to find. You can see multiple third down situations where the one that broke me, and I was broken already, clearly, but the one that really broke me in this specific game was it's third and 4 with like 8 minutes left in the game. They're down by 7. And I can understand through the course of the game, you've got to throw different looks at teams. And sometimes teams are going to take deep shots against you if you go ultra aggressive on third and short. Understand all of it. With 8 minutes left in the game, you're down by 7. It's third and 4. You have to get the ball back so your offense can go down and tie the game. To still at that point be playing like, whoa, we can't get beat deep on this play. We got to have our 2 say. You're playing 9 on 11. You're playing 9 on 11 on a key play defensively in that game, where if you get off the field on that play, you're down 7, you give Jordan the ball back, and who knows what happens from there. Instead, they go down, they score the touchdown. It's a 14-point game. It's all she wrote, game over. That's the stuff that is completely inexcusable. And again, I know Matt said like there was plays where the safety didn't rotate down when he was, again, that is worse to me than if you just called a bad play call. If guys don't know how to execute the simple stuff that you're calling, that's just as damning in my opinion, if not more. All right, I want to talk about this one, and more specifically, just because I want to talk about Quay Walker, because I think it's an interesting point of discussion. Roberto says, I like Quay Walker in a Micah Parsons role, off-ball 4-3 linebacker, bringing off edge as a rusher. He's better being aggressive. I agree. I want to get both of your guys' take on this, and then I want to talk about Quay in general. I agree with half of this sentiment, maybe a third of this sentiment. I do agree that Quay, this last part, is much better being aggressive. I think a downfield attacking Quay Walker is the best. I talked to Sam Munson today, and one of the things I mentioned is there's almost parallels between Darnell Savage at safety and Quay Walker at linebacker. When you see them playing fast and just not having to think about things too much and playing downhill and just using their athletic traits to the best of their ability, you see a pretty good player. When they start backing up and like the angles, just the instincts, the football intelligence, like all of that stuff, things start to break down a lot more quickly, and you end up with a little bit of disjointedness and just not exactly sure what to expect on any given play. So I do like him being more aggressive. What I will say is I've been low-key super disappointed in Quay as a blitzer. Watch him blitz sometime. He does not get home. He's blocked fairly easily by running backs, tight ends, anyone. If anyone gets in his way, it's basically like he's dead in the water and there's nothing that's going to happen. So it's nice. I like the idea of being more of an attacking linebacker. He's got to get better as an attacking blitzing style player first to get to that Micah Parsons-esque role. But I do think they have to figure out something, because I don't think through a year and a half, and I think, or a little over a year and a half, and maybe partially due to some injuries as of late that he has had. I thought he looked better earlier in the season than he has over the course of the last couple of months. And I know he's missed practice time. He's been in and out of the lineup. So that could all have to factor into this. But I don't know. I'm at a loss of what to do with Quay Walker at this point. Thoughts on Quay in general, guys, or in Roberto's comment here?
It's to say it in a Micah Parsons role. I mean, he can't hold anything up to Micah Parsons at this moment. I do think Quay can be a lot better for this defense if schemed the right way. And that's an interesting comment, because I've always played around with the aspect of what if the Packers did a complete overhaul on that defense. And I know a lot of teams don't even run base anymore, but like a 4-3 style type of defense, would Quay be better in that situation? I'm glad you made the comparison with Darnell Savage, because that also is a thing that I've thought about multiple times. Like, when you watch his tape at Maryland, like, it looks completely different than from right now. Like, it's completely different. So it's like, would Darnell also be a better as like a nickel guy, just like a pure nickel guy, a spot that they're struggling right now at with Keyshawn Nixon in terms of the entire year, in my opinion. But yep. I don't know, man. It's kind of hard to say with Quay Walker. Like, you see flashes there. You definitely do. There's certain games where it's like, wow, that dude has it. There's just mainly inconsistency issues, where last year and this year, where it's like there's really bad games as well, last week being one of them. But I wouldn't mind trying things with him just to see what sticks, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm there too. Zach, what about you?
Well, like Alex said, I really love the Darnell Savage kind of comparison because when they moved him to nickelback last year, and even throughout his professional career, they've occasionally tried him there. And at Maryland, when he was playing closer to the ball, he was, like you said, he was a much different player. He was faster, he was more aggressive, he was able to get downhill and be active in the running game, which that could be a problem right now because he's not the best tackler. I think he's averaging a higher missed tackle percentage right now than at any point in his career, but he'll help blow up a play. And I think the thing with Quay Walker as well, when he does get clashing kind of downhill and he gets the opportunity to blow up plays, that's not somebody you want to run into because he plays like a maniac. But when he has to take that second to kind of process what's happening and he has to kind of just take a second to kind of read what's unfolding in front of him, then things kind of, it doesn't slow down as well as you would hope for him. Now, as far as trying him at edge, they tried a little bit of this in the summer of his rookie season. I remember in training camp and in the preseason, I believe. And it's the idea in theory is fun. And I think if you're going to try something like that, commit to it entirely. So that way you can help kind of like, develop his pass rushing repertoire, kind of give him more moves in the bank instead of just, someone that's going to get stonewalled by running backs, someone that is not going to be able to kind of bend the edge that well. That's, develop on his skill set there and give him kind of the opportunity to learn. Because if you have a player like that that's able to kind of bounce between two different positions, then that adds a whole different layer to your defense. I feel like that adds a lot to what you can do schematically. Not that it matters if Joe Barry is there, but regardless. I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be a fun thing to try. But like I said, they would have to commit to it fully. You can't just have him kind of go throughout the summer with him kind of bouncing on and off. You have to get him there, let him learn, let him kind of develop as an edge rusher, and then kind of bouncing back and forth. Clay Matthews was able to bounce between edge and middle linebacker. They were kind of able to try him in two different spots. So I can't see why they wouldn't be able to do it with someone that has the athletic profile of Quay Walker.
I'm going to be really interested to see what they do at off-ball linebacker in general this offseason. You've got obviously Devondre Campbell, and who knows what's going to happen with him moving forward. Isaiah McDuffie, as we mentioned, is filled in mostly adequately in his time. And then you've got Quay, this first-round pick that's been up and down through 2 seasons so far. I don't think it's a position that they just immediately want to address like super aggressively again, but it's also not a position that I think you can just be like, oh, we're good there. Like we don't have to do anything anymore. They're gonna have to look at still making improvements at that spot, which I think is a bit of a bummer considering all that's kind of gone into that position over the course of the past few seasons. All right, King David, thank you so much. The season is only about how Love progresses. The mess on defense can be fixed. I once again agree with half of your sentiments. I do agree that this is all about how Love progresses. I'll believe that the mess on defense is fixed when I see the mess on defense actually get fixed. This is like a long-standing defensive problem now. I still go back to the time where Aaron, after week 1, said, we got a defense. Oh, you just played Mitch Trubisky, my friend. That was all that was. And it still hasn't been fixed ever since. But
God, that feels forever ago, doesn't it?
It does. It
Jesus.
Does. I know. And but no, I think we can all agree that this is very clearly all about Jordan Love still and his progression, and things are still trending very much in the right direction.
Yeah, no, I agree. And this was the optics have kind of changed as the season has gone on. I remember going into the season, during training camp and stuff, everyone's talking about, just let's see how Jordan Love looks. Got to see if we got a quarterback. That's the number one thing. Get him some snaps, get him some starts. We got to see what he is before we can move on. And I'm perfectly content with 5-6 wins this year. That was real stuff people said, and I predicted the Packers would go 6-11. I felt like this was just going to be a developmental year where they need to kind of get the young guys some snaps. They need to just mesh as a team. They need to prove that they can win as a team. They need to develop. And I've been like blown the hell away. Like I did not expect Jordan Love to look this good. Yeah, it's been a roller coaster as expected, and as the season has gone along, the narrative has changed about the Packers. I feel like now it's like you expect them to kind of be in playoff contention right now, it's incredible that they are considering how the month of October went. It's ridiculous that we're even having this conversation right now about them being, one of the 7 seeds in the NFC. But yeah, this season was entirely about Jordan Love, and they needed to see what they had there under center. They needed to see if they had their guy for the future, and if not, they would address things, as they come in the offseason. They would either move in a new direction at quarterback, or they would build around Jordan Love. And I feel like they're going to lean for the latter now. Like they have their guy. And people have kind of lost sight of that. They lost sight of what the season was really for. And it's easy to let that happen, as a fan especially. It's easy to watch them beat the Chiefs and beat the Lions in back-to-back weeks and get hyped. Like, wow, why wait for the future? The future could be freaking now.
Yeah.
It's easy to fall into that. But this season was about Jordan Love figuring out what he can do, figuring out what his limits are. And I don't even think he scratched his ceiling yet. So I can't even say figuring out where his ceiling is. But it's figuring out what Jordan Love is.
Yeah,
it's really the Packers' fault for giving us hope after those Lions and Chiefs wins. If they just wouldn't have done that, everything would be totally fine at this point. Idiots.
I know, assholes. I don't even think they expected to win those games, considering they traded Rasul Douglas. I think they were just kind of like they're throwing in the towel, like, okay, we're probably going to be a bad team for the rest of the year. You're going to get a relatively good draft pick, maybe in the top 5, top 6 picks. Nope.
No.
Nope.
Yeah, right. Like it went from top 7 draft pick to like, oh shit, playoffs. Like, here we go. It's crazy. And
now right back.
Yeah, right back to it. It's like, oh wait. Can we still get a top 10? It's like, it's crazy, man. But I've been very impressed with Jordan Love. I know October was rough for people who have been supporting Jordan Love all year. Very rough. I mean, if you look at like the comments and everything, it's just like, man, you got Clifford this, Clifford that. I was losing my mind, man. I was fighting over here because you saw it week in and week out, like the flashes of Jordan Love, and it was like Zach said, a roller coaster, and that's kind of what you expected all this season, your roller coaster, the ups and the downs for not only the team but Jordan Love. But if you ended the season right now, I'm still very happy with what Jordan Love has done so far, playoffs or not, like 100%. When you look at the plays he makes, and yes, he still has his mistakes, throwing off platform when he shouldn't have to, and some accuracy issues. Sure, that can all get cleaned up. And like you also said, his ceiling is way higher than it is right now. So that much is very promising. But yeah, you definitely lose sight of it a little bit when you beat the Chiefs and the Lions, and you're like, okay, well, we're at 71% chance to make the playoffs. Like, let's get into the playoffs. You know what I mean?
The thing that I'm so excited about is there's just like, it feels to me there's like one box for Jordan left to check, and that's just hit the layups with a little bit more consistency. Like the big plays are there. The mobility is there. He has not been like making the catastrophic mistakes, over especially like I feel like that's improved over the course of the season. Like everything that you need is there. It's just, can he hit some of the layups with a little bit more consistency? If that is what he can go into the offseason with, and again, he needs to finish out these 3 games, but if he can go into the offseason being like, all right, I just need to make sure that I'm throwing with a little bit more rhythm, get my feet planted a little bit better, and then throw within the timing of the offense. And when those plays are there, I just need to make those. Like, dude, when you say the sky's the limit, like that's like the only thing that's missing at this point. Now, some of those layups are open plays 40 yards downfield. I'm not saying it's like it's like a easy pitch and catch, but when there's guys open, if he can just hit those with a little bit more consistency, there's not much else that I'm worried about. His leadership is great. His consistency is great. I love his even keeled mentality. I love the way he runs the offense. I've been like, even on his run pass options, I've loved his decision-making. Like there's a lot of boxes that have been checked. It's just, can you hit the layups with a little bit more consistency? And if that's the only thing you're going into the lab for this summer, job well done. I'm very excited about what's to come.
Yeah. He seems cool, calm, collected, and like the guys are behind him. So that's like one of the main things there.
Big time. All right, we got Fenrir 787. Appreciate the super chat. I know play calling is an issue, but I still see no reason players can't step up. Players win, not coaches. Jordan Love took ownership of plays, and he's doing better. Defense must also, no excuses. I agree with a portion of this. I do think that the players need to execute better, need to play better. And it's, as I've been saying all week long, and people are probably sick of it by now, it's not just one thing. There's one clear and obvious thing that needs to get changed. We're all on the same page on that. But except for my friend Joe Barry, who's been in the chat here this entire time, who I can't find right now. Joe Barry is him.
Around. He's been following me around, man.
Yeah, he's. Thanks, Joe. We appreciate you joining the chat today.
He was just in my last live. He's following me around.
Amazing, absolutely love it. But outside that, we understand that this change needs to get made. But it's not just as simple as that. Players need to execute, and like, when we saw this team play well against KC and Detroit, it was a lot due to the fact that their good players were playing very well in those games on both sides of the ball. So I think there just needs to be a better level of execution, intensity, physicality, and the players need to go out and execute too, because every single game I can point to, there's times where players are in positions to make plays and they're not always making them. And that's concerning too. And it's not just a defensive coordinator thing.
No.
All right. What else do we got here? Luke, I'm glad you brought this up. And again, thanks for the super chat. Just joined and might have been discussed. Would love your thoughts on the future of the tight ends. Zach, I'll let you start with this one, buddy.
I don't think I should be the one to start with this because I posted that picture of Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, and I said that's Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft.
Oh God!
So I probably shouldn't be the one to start with this, but
pre-murder, Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah. I did add that caveat in the caption.
It's an important caveat.
I think I said without the murder. No, man. I mean, we've seen. I wasn't super high on Tucker Kraft. You know, like just the player. I wasn't. You know, coming out of college, I was like, okay, cool. 3rd round pick. Take a flyer on, and maybe it hits, maybe it doesn't. Also, because of the fact that he was a 3rd round pick, and obviously that doesn't really mesh well with Green Bay. But he has been a pleasant surprise. Sean Ryan, last year's 3rd round pick, he's been a pleasant surprise. So I think the curse has been broken. You know, still kind of to be determined, but. You know, Tucker Kraft, he has his own skill set. I think he's kind of that, you know, obviously he can get out and catch the ball and he can run routes and stuff, but I think what he's been doing just as a blocker in the running game, like he's been paving the way on some pretty crucial runs. And like, he's a mauler. Like he is not scared. And his mentality, like listening to some of the things that he said, like he's twisted. Like he is a sick bastard.
He's a Packer, man.
and you need that. You need that, especially as a blocker, especially as a guy that's going out to, you know, bury bodies in the turf. You got to be just disgusting like that. And Luke Musgrave, obviously, he's that vertical kind of, you know, down the seam threat that the Packers have been lacking at tight end for so long. I don't think they've really had a true guy like that. Like, yeah, you've had you know, Jared Cook here and there, but they haven't had a guy that can truly win against defensive backs with speed, or a guy that can truly get down the seam with the kind of speed that Luke Musgrave has. They haven't had that since Jermichael Finley. So it has been 10 years. It has been a decade since that presence has been within the offense. It's a shame, obviously, that this happened the year after Aaron Rodgers left, because I would have loved to see what he could do with Musgrave or someone like Musgrave. But you know, it's such a dynamic room, and both of those guys obviously bring, you know, different skill sets that complement the offense and complement each other. So I think that room, like, they're set. It's gonna be unreal. And Josiah DeGuara, who, you know, he was your starting H-back, you know, now he's pretty much like your 3rd string tight end. He's kind of occasionally comes in as your H-back, but you know, now he's like, you know, down the depth chart, and you have 2 guys ahead of him, and it's beautiful. I think that those guys are going to be a problem for a long time.
You could even argue Ben Sims is ahead of him right now.
Yeah.
If at tight end, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, was it the first team in Super Bowl era to have 3 rookie tight ends score a touchdown?
3 rookie tight ends with a touchdown.
Right. Like the transition from college tight end to pro is one of the hardest in terms of, you know, position wise. And I think the saying of since Jermichael Finley might finally end, because I feel like we've been saying that every tight end we bring in here, right? Like even go back to Martellus Bennett. Like, I don't even want to utter his name. But Jared Cook and all that. I've been very impressed with both of these tight ends. I think the most improved player in the 15 weeks has been Tucker Kraft in terms of the offense, in terms of what he's been able to do. Next man up when you know, we see Musgrave go down with the lacerated kidney, him stepping into the tight end number 1 role and just completely owning it. I thought he's been excellent. And like you said with Luke Musgrave, I think they just yin and yang for these 2 tight ends. I think they just complement each other very well. Luke Musgrave can be a very, you know, good vertical threat so long he doesn't turn into Jimmy Graham after he catches the ball.
Man, we have brought up Jimmy Graham, Aaron Hernandez, and Martellus Bennett in the same segment. That is unbelievable and probably not good karma.
Jimmy Graham's still scoring touchdowns, man. He's still scoring.
I think he scored more this season than he had in his entire time in Green Bay combined, which is we're not going to talk about that.
That's a good
Lennon, Brazil loves them Packers. Shout out to Cheeseheads in Brazil. Hey, and congrats to you guys for getting a football game coming to Brazil. That's absolutely awesome. So shout out to you guys as well. Hopefully you guys enjoy the hell out of that. That should be absolutely amazing. I'm excited for that game when that happens. All right. What else do we want to talk about? Oh, we got Seth saying that Kraft gives him some Jason Witten flashbacks. I love what Tucker Kraft is bringing to the table. I am too excited about Tucker Kraft right now, and I need to calm down because, like, I know that these things take time. His mentality, as you guys brought up, is awesome. And every great tight end, it feels like, is like you said, a little bit twisted, a little bit weird in all the best ways. He seems to have that. He seems to love physicality, love contact. He's going after players as a blocker in ways that I don't think I've seen. Like Mercedes Lewis was a technician. Like he didn't need to go after players in like this physical way. It was almost like Neo in the Matrix when he's just yawning at the end and fighting with one hand at that point. He's like, I got this, guys. I don't need to even exert effort because I'm just going to block you in my sleep. That's what Mercedes was. But like Tucker's just going out there, hair on fire, like looking to punch someone in the face, not like literally, but maybe literally. Like, and I just love it. And then like the yards after the catch and the growth from, man, in training camp, OTAs, mini camp. Like I was watching, and I did like him coming out, and I'm watching him, and especially through camp, it was crazy because Musgrave like every single day did like 3 things where you're just like, holy crap. And like it would be another day where it's like, I don't even know, like, was Tucker Kraft out there? I don't think Tucker Kraft was even playing. Like, you didn't see anything from him. So to go from that, where it was kind of so pedestrian, to just kind of turning a corner midway through the season, and obviously that came with more opportunity. And the beautiful thing is the pairing of their 2 skill sets. It's not the same. They do different things. And I think that's what's so exciting. And I think you could have some really fun 12 personnel packages moving forward that could give the defense a lot of different problems, especially if you get a Christian Watson out there, hopefully a really dynamic running back. Dontavian Wicks is like, look the heck out. It's going to be, I think, a lot of fun moving forward.
And Tucker Kraft took a shot to the nuts on Sunday, and he stayed in the game. Took a helmet. Okay. Like that, that's impressive alone. I think that alone breaks the 3rd round curse.
Trying to hurdle guys while they're not even going low on them. I love it.
And Luke Musgrave's going out with a lacerated kidney. Come on. I mean, come on. What's worse?
And he stayed in the game after that, didn't he? As well.
He did actually. They're both.
He's like, I have some pain. It's like, what?
I've got a slight sensation in the kidney area. Maybe you should get it checked out. Yeah, probably should.
Jesus.
All right. Do you still take a left tackle early in the draft after what Rashid has been putting together? Definitely need some depth. I want to get both of your thoughts on this, but I actually was thinking about this today. And I think what would be an ideal situation for Green Bay is if like one of those first 3 picks, they took somebody that had that tackle guard versatility. And the reason I say that is I just want a crap ton of really good competition on that line. And if you got somebody that had tackle guard versatility, you now have that player that could play outside at tackle if you needed it, or could kick inside to guard. We know Zach Tom can play probably everywhere. Elton has a ton of versatility. You can probably play Sean Ryan at either guard position if you needed to. I think actually Myers, you could play at guard if you actually needed to in a pinch. Rashid could play left or right side. Like it opens up so many of your options. And when you really talk about best 5 guys, like you could end up in a situation, and obviously that's not even including David Bakhtiari. Like I just put him to the side for now until we know whatever, like, can he play? Will he play? Is he on the team? Does he? I don't even know what to do with it. So that aside, I think if you have all of that competition where if you have this new rookie, again, 1st or 2nd round pick that's competing at left tackle with also Zach Tom, with also Rashid Walker, Elton kick out to left tackle, you've got multiple options there. Zach could play center. You could put Elton at center. You've got like just everything is then your option. It puts immense opportunity and also competition at every position. And I think it would really just make it fun. And then you're not counting on any one player. And if somebody takes a step back and they're just not good enough, if that's Rashid, if that's Josh, if that's Sean Ryan, whoever that might be, now you've got another option that you can kind of throw in the mix. What were you going to say, Zach?
Yeah. No, yeah, I completely agree. I think the cross training pretty much has been the name of the game in Green Bay since James Campen was there, getting those guys just in different positions and, being able, if injury does strike, you have the depth. And I think no matter who they end up taking, whether it's a pure tackle or not, like they're going to end up being cross-trained at guard. They're going to end up learning a bunch of different positions. I mean, that's the whole point of what they do in training camp. You've seen this yourself with your very own eyes. They love getting guys into different spots. And then, people following along with your tweets, me being one of them, they'll be like, oh, Josh Myers is coming out with the starting 5 at right guard. And I'll be reading that. I'll be like, what the hell? What? Not that they've done that, but I'm just giving you an example. But, they like getting guys into these different spots, kind of expanding, their skill set. And you can't go wrong with that. You can't have too many versatile linemen up front. It's kind of like on the edge. You can't have too many guys that can rush the quarterback. Same thing on both sides. And I want to say though about Rasheed Walker, like he has really come on. He started the season pretty strong, hit a little bit of a rough patch, but this last like 4 weeks, this last month or so, he has come on. He has been kind of shutting down, and holding down Jordan Love's blindside. He's been tremendous, and for a 7th round pick to develop the way he has, it's pretty significant, and I think I tweeted this last night about Brian Gutekunst. He's hit on Zach Tom, Rasheed Walker on day 3. His scouting staff, they have found these guys in the latter rounds of the draft, and Sean Ryan as well in the 3rd round. That's pretty significant when you could do things like that, and it kind of makes you consider like, hey, okay, do they need to take a tackle in the 1st round, or is there a guy kind of in the mid rounds where you feel comfortable, you feel like he can develop into a future starter that you feel comfortable taking? And could you use that 1st round pick perhaps in another position, a position that perhaps isn't a need, or, just a position where you need the reinforcement? It opens up just that luxury, So yeah, definitely Rasheed Walker. He's been tremendous.
Yeah, I've been super impressed with him as well. And that like 1 month ago, like when Rasheed was struggling, I was like, okay, making a couple mock drafts or looking at it. I'm like, okay, the Packers probably got to take a tackle here in the 1st round. But now you kind of, like you said, question it. You're like, like, do they really have to? It's like, do they take a guy in the mid rounds? Because 1st round, I'm getting like Derek Schrod flashbacks. Like, I don't want any of that, right? you got Rasheed Walker playing really well, and then you wonder like, okay, can they just move on from David Bakhtiari? But then you have like the injury grievance problems and all that, and it's a whole mess of stuff. So, but nonetheless, you should always have like more competition. So like having more competition at any of those positions is great, and you guys hit on it with the versatility, having these versatile guys where Rasheed playing both sides, Zach Tom literally playing anywhere. He could be our starting center of the future, if you get another tackle in the building. And then you have Sean Ryan, who I've been impressed with, and I continue to say every week I just want to see them fully put him out there. And we saw last week him get the most snaps all year, so that was awesome to see. But it was kind of a surprise for me last year for them to not draft a single lineman, so I think they definitely get a couple here in this draft and just add to that versatility, the depth, the competition.
Luke Tenuta back practicing today.
That's right.
It's all the depth you need. It's all these.
It would be pretty huge. Yeah, it would be pretty huge if Tenuta and Caleb Jones, if there's something there between one of those two guys, maybe they go 0 for 2, I don't know. But if one of those guys pans out, then I mean that opens the door even more to kind of just doing really whatever they want on draft day.
I actually think they secretly really like Tenuta. If you go back to last year, he got game day elevations at the end of the year as their like swing tackle ahead of Caleb Jones. I think even ahead of Rasheed Walker towards the end of last year. I think they sneakily like him. So he's an intriguing player. I'm interested to see. And obviously they could have just put him on IR to start the season and had him be on IR the entire year, meaning that they wouldn't have been able to recall him and save that like roster spot on cut down day. They could have just like done an injury settlement, and they went out of their way to keep him on the roster, knowing he probably wasn't going to play maybe at all of this season. That's how much they thought of him. Now, there's been other players that they've done this for in the past and have kept on the roster for a couple of years, like Alex Light, that never developed into anything. So it's not a guarantee, but I do think they like him a little bit, and I am intrigued. I'm going to answer these couple of super chats quick, and then I got to get out of here, guys. Haas20, what you think about promoting John Dunn to Ass OC? You should never promote anyone to Ass OC. But assuming assistant offensive coordinator, he can be more involved in play design, and Steno gets more time to be hands-on with the offensive lineman again. I think the hard part of that is demoting Steno, right? If you demote Steno, you have to be prepared to say goodbye, and that he's just going to say, no, I'm not taking a demotion. I'm out of here. I'll go find an offensive coordinator job somewhere else, or let me go. And I think you have to be concerned about that. I do like John Dunn a lot. I think he deserves a ton of credit for the work that he's done in the tight end room. There have been multiple shout outs to what he has done of drawing up plays. So I do think he has a bright future in the league. But I think in an ideal world on offense, the way things are going right now, you probably just keep Steno in the building as your OC. You maybe promote John Dunn to maybe a senior assistant, like you do something to kind of give him a little bit of a title increase, but I don't think you need to change too much up on offense right now. Now, if some team came calling and said they were going to give John Dunn the offensive coordinator job, and you thought that he was more important and like a better coach long-term, then maybe you have a decision to make. But I think in an ideal world, everything just stays the same. And then Vex, yes, Joe Barry is terrible, but we need some defensive draft picks to pay off. Even assuming a healthy roster, you still have only about 3 impact players. Absolutely. We discussed this earlier. It's not just the defensive coordinator. They need talent. They need scheme. They need execution. They need a new mentality, everything. It's not just going to be this, again, copy and paste. Oh, new defensive coordinator, and everything's going to be fixed. Oh, we got one more. My balls itch. Always good to see you, my balls itch. What kind of incriminating photos do you think Joe Barry has on Matt LaFleur and the front office to keep his job? I don't think he has any incriminating photos. I think this is a team that with 3 weeks left probably doesn't have a better option and wasn't just going to pay Joe Barry for 3 weeks just to sit out and somebody else do the job that Joe Barry probably would have been doing anyway, is probably my better guess. And like we all said, probably move in a different direction in the offseason. Guys, this was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for joining me. Alex, tell everyone where they can find your awesome YouTube page and anything else you're working on.
Basaraski Productions. If you can spell it correctly, it's Basaraski. So you can check me out there. Everything Packers on YouTube.
Right there on the
There you
screen.
go. Yep.
Zach, what about you, man?
Yeah, if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, you can find me at It's Zachary J. And you can also find my work at PackerReport.com.
They both do tremendous work. Make sure to give them a follow over on Twitter. And of course, make sure to check out all of the work, Packer Report, Basaraski Productions on YouTube. You can find me at Andy Herman NFL. Of course, you can find the podcast at Packaday Podcast, but you know that already since you're here. Appreciate you guys a ton. Appreciate all the super chats today. We'll be back next week with an all new Packaday Live. And of course, 365 days a year with an all new podcast. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.